Put it in the freezer. That's what my dad always used to do. He used to unplug the PlayStation 1 when it would overheat and just drop it in the freezer for a couple hours.
Fun fact, Microsoft has like a bunch of servers like sitting under the Arctic Ocean right now.
That's actually super bad.
They were doing some tests like 5 or 10 years ago to like, does this work? And apparently it did. So.
I know they had that one that they sunk underneath, I think the Atlantic, right? That was like in the middle of the ocean.
I think that's what it is.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that was under the ice. That's actually so sick. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I mean, the more you know. And, well, the more we know about these bands, we'll know about Theme Park. And it looks like we're going to have the Monty band coming through. A lot of Monty getting banned out from the offensive side throughout this tournament so far. A lot of people respecting what Monty brings to the table, which is just that pure, unadulterated pressure. It's so hard to try and play around him, especially when he can prevent you from, exactly getting to the planter or maybe using a door that you so wanted to, try and abuse prior. Monty just so good in positions like that, especially on maps like this or maps like Skyscraper, things along those lines. Ying and Valkyrie also going to be banned out, and also Capita, which is an Kaid, which is an interesting one as well because we didn't have a Thatcher ban on the offensive side, so just worried about potentially being able to use those Electro Claws from distance inside of Armory, which we see time and time again as people try to Electro Claw shuffle those things from a pretty considerable distance nowadays, trying to play off a cover.
So for lab and storage, that'll be the starting point for both of our teams here as G2 heads downstairs. Not necessarily the expected opening site. So we'd seen this get played out yesterday, and both teams, of course, immediately went towards Throne Room. That is the expected site we assume most teams will play into. And of course, G2 will eventually work their way over there, but they do want to test their mettle a little bit, it seems, extend their own rotation game out a bit further here, trying to get in the face of W7M right from the get-go, shake them up a little bit. I kind of like this now that I'm thinking about it more myself from G2 here, but it is a little bit of a risk. We'll have to see if it pays off them. W7M, of course, because of the fact that they were more than likely expecting Throne Room, they've got to go for quite a few repicks here. So the operator lineup's going to be changed up. Double soft breach being deployed. Oh, maybe it is. Hold on. It was flirt with an Ash there for a second, but Volps does end up going on. As we get both the Sledge and the Buck on top of, as well, those Rotero drones coming out from Julio. Very, very destructive combination of attackers here, focused very much on knocking down walls and opening up attacking routes more than anything else, just when you look across the board here.
Well, assume that these rounds will be slow rolling. That's usually what we see when it comes to Theme Park, is teams really do not want to make those brutal mistakes that they can find themselves crossing paths with early on in the rounds here. A lot of roaming game and just pressure across the building from the defense is usually what we see, and that's exactly what we'll get as Benjamin Master will tap up herds just a tad bit. Nothing to really call home about. Get the Roteros going in here, and I do believe Julio might have gotten that one stuck or don't exactly know what happened. There's no mute jammers. Oh, probably a Mozzie Pest. Probably a Mozzie Pest around there. I didn't see the mute jammers, but more than likely got eaten up by that. So very well done there from Alamau to be able to prevent at least the initial Rotero drone from sneaking in through that drone hole.
I'm trying to send another one through here. Just eats up a quarter of his utility. Deployable shield will still be dealt with pretty quickly. W7M has struck first, though, finding Doki roaming around up on the second floor and eliminating him. Virtue in a bit of a hot spot here now because of that one. He has to rotate back out towards Arcade, and that is definitely not going to be a secure position to try and work towards here, so we'll have to follow that up for the next few seconds, see if they can successfully work their way down. It does look like that is the case, thankfully, since W7M did not really have a whole lot of pressure on that Arcade side. That will allow them, of course, to retreat back into the depths of the site. Still a player down, but at least they've returned some decent damage. And there we go. Got the confirmation off. On to Keys here, re-equalizing the scenario into a 4v4.
And KZ died so fast there, we literally got transcended to heaven. We didn't even get to see his point of view. It was ridiculous as he swung into yellow stairs. Volps is now trying to transition his way through Arcade and take out the player playing on the stairwell. That'll be a fairly straightforward affair. He'll take down Virtue. Benji now holding things down inside. A nice cross for him to get into a more pivotal position. EMPs to assist as W7M are hurling themselves towards this site, and it might end up being catastrophic here in a moment, as I don't believe they know about Alamau's best position up top, but he's going to have to get away with a decent amount here. It can't just be one kill. It has to be a whole slew of them, and he might miss position. He does indeed. Hertz hears him. He'll take down Alamau. They know where Benja is now, as he'll take out one of their friends outside. It's going to be the Goyo canister that deals a decent amount of damage to Hertz, but through the fire and flames is JV92, and W7M will claim the round.
All right, so a definitive statement for the players on W7M to take such a one-sided attacking round here at the start of it. But keep in mind what we said at the beginning of it, not necessarily the expected site choice for G2 to go to initially here. They wanted to try and test their own defensive strength, and unfortunately tested it a little bit too much there, as W7M did not have much of a problem in trading things out, especially with them getting the opening kill and then just following it through past that point, just trading their way to a win essentially. So now G2 falls back onto the ever-reliable Armory site here to hopefully pick up their first defensive round.
I don't think it was exactly a terrible strategy to go over to drug and storage first, but definitely didn't bode too well for them. W7M getting a lot of control on the top floor that ended up making just things overly complicated for G2. They really didn't have a way to try and fight back against it, all except for Alamau kind of on an island upstairs trying to combat all of that himself. And I mean, all it takes is just a little misstep like what we saw, and all of that ends up going to the wayside anyways, and W7M have a pretty considerable round. So we're going to have to see what G2 can potentially do. Back to the drawing board for them, as you said, they're going to be going back to Throne for the very first time here on their defensive set to see if they can potentially get some things going on. This is usually the defensive site that we see teams adapt first, which is honestly why I expected it to be first, but obviously not the case. It'll be the second round this time around for G2.
Bomb located by attackers.
Oh. We've got G2 once again defensively primed up here. Still a bit of an extension going to be deployed by them elsewhere across the map. You can see those two silhouettes still messing around up on the second floor, so that'll need to be checked off the list first, more than likely by W7M, where they can proceed forward, get deeper into the actual site. Doki continues to maintain positioning just on the inside of Dragon here. Could potentially leave him exposed to be the first player down again, but no, this time it's Virtue that finds his own opening pick instead with a little bit of a jump out there. Able to find out Volps and eliminate him. It's on the way back in here. Herds, in the meanwhile, is quickly trying to work on the yellow wall back into the site, but there's still presence from the defenders on yellow stairs, so no way is that going to work. Immediately, both of those Selmas are shot out. Either bad intel call or just an overzealous push leads to the elimination of most of the hard breach utility the attackers had access to, but Keys thankfully going to make up for this at least in some dividends now by pushing himself directly into the and taking it.
KZ quickly dispatching 2, and now the rest of W7M hot to trot. 3 kills for him, all on the 417. The biggest play from the DMR that we've seen this entire LAN is now down to Virtue, the man that got the opening kill. He'll get the second for G2, but he'll be the last to die as W7M pick up their second round.
W7M coming into this one with a tear. Did not look like they were going to be able to follow through into the site so successfully after Doki. There we go. Did not look like they were going to be able to follow it through so successfully when you consider the fact that their hard breach got just hard denied basically there. They tried to throw both the Selmas at the wall and they were immediately shot out because there was still presence on yellow stairs. Then we see KZ just, oh, Dragon Door's open and like, I don't think there's anyone here. So he just walks right in, finds 2 picks along the way because Armory was either unprepared for that push or didn't have Overwatch for it. Gets another one rotating in through connector as well, trying to push a smoke, and it just lambs the slaughter at that point with the way G2 is playing it.
Well, these defenses obviously not boding too well for G2 at the current moment. Have to look to try and change some things up. They're going to send it over to daycare, see what they can potentially get done here. Bunker, usually a pretty solid spot to sit around, as well as the arcade balcony. Looks like they're going to try and extend things out over into initiation. We see this quite often with some teams, as they will have some mirrors to be able to support this as well. The other one more than likely over on the yellow stairs. Yes, indeed. It'll be up top there. And they'll be holding this from the west towards the east, trying to prevent W7M from coming in on this side. But we've also seen how adept W7M have been so far at changing up how they want to try and go about this. And, well, it seems like they just want to go about it quickly. I don't even know if Volps knew that he had the shotgun as a primary there. Benjit apparently didn't know that anything was broken either. Volps is going to gun him down. It's going to be a quick trade, but is any W7M member even relatively close to try and build anything off of this? No. I think it's going to be an even trade, and we're going to go back to basics.
Very strange from Volps there, is we've seen very well-coordinated pushes like that in the past and built off of the Gara hook plays as well. But as you mentioned, just no one even nearby ready to support that, it seems. Herds maybe was in the area looking at his current position, but a bit of a weird one there, as at least it gets them a 1-for-1, but it just seems like it happened a minute or so too early into the round. That may have been part of it, in all honesty. That may have just been part of the plan from Volps. It's like, all right, let me immediately hop in here where they may not be expecting me in those first few seconds of the round, and maybe I'm able to establish a hard point that my teammates can join about 10 to 20 seconds later, but just did not end up panning out there. So we go down to a 4v4 as there's basically just a one-and-done 1v1 gunfight that starts us off there.
Well, past that, not too much action going on. Some solid positioning here from W7M as they're able to use Buck to his fullest advantage. That Skeleton Key working its way up through the floor and forcing a move from G2. Alamau looks to try and abuse some of those angles that had just opened up, but he just got too overzealous. Herds playing the counter angle not only gets him, but as well as Virtue here from security. JV92 will make the situation even worse, and now it's all down to Doki. Has the MX4 Storm, but he doesn't have air to breathe as he's suffocated out by W7M.
W7M are not only winning these rounds, they are winning them quick as heck, man. At least 2 out of 3 of these, I think I've been won inside of the first 2 minutes. Very, very well done by W7M. As soon as they see blood in the water, they are not wasting any time. They are swarming that krill and eating it up as quickly as possible here. It's going to trigger an immediate timeout from G2, seeing the way these first 3 rounds have played out. Maybe he needs to get into this one and give his input, as it is a rough time at the moment for G2, seeing just how quickly they are falling apart on a round-to-round basis.
It's a very interesting moment here. That was just waiting.
I think it was just like, I honestly don't even think he was expecting it to fight that early. I think he just wanted to establish positioning and just see how long he could hold it, and maybe his teammates would have been able to group up with him. Like, it was just like a gamble strat, I think, essentially.
I'm more completely blown away.
It all worked out at the end of the day. So
yeah, true. I mean, yeah.
We can't fault it that much.
That is the most damnedest things when that happens, I swear. Sometimes you'll be trying to help one of your friends with something, you'll be like, hey, like, this is the way that you want to do this. And they do the most confound thing you've ever seen in your life, and then it works. And they're like, well, why can't I do this?
I don't know how much it contributed to the overall round win, but like,
right?
Yeah,
it's like, it
got G2 down a player, so I guess.
I mean, technically it was an opening kill. So
yeah.
Positive in the entry stat.
Stat padding.
Yeah, I'm
my favorite activity.
Maybe I need to start playing some more Amaru now that I'm thinking about it. Huh.
It's the ultimate way to just go and say, well, I got my ones.
I got my frag.
I don't know what you guys are doing.
I got my frag.
I'm even. I don't know about you. But
I just don't even understand how they didn't hear him fly through the window. I think that was the key thing for me.
They may have, and then just like not thought he was that much of a threat or something like that.
Yeah, Benja apparently thought he was no threat. He thought it was like a tea party in break room or something.
Just a very weird play to open up the last round. But we're well beyond that now, moving into the 4th round here. Let's take a look and see if W7M is going to continue to have that degree of success, or if G2, of course, has been able to recenter themselves a little bit better after that tack pause and the input from their coach. And that's going to be a slow roll from them. No one trying to challenge these initial window pushes. You have one player from G2. If it's similar to the past rounds, it's probably going to be Doki, messing around with the dragon doors here, but not really in a position to get hyper-aggressive around that. Doki's actually fallen back since that. He's going to be able to set up some deployable shields a bit closer to the sight zone here. Hopefully cause some trouble for W7M, who is, as usual, proceeding quite slowly here inside of the first minute. W7M definitely wanting to build up a good intel bank before they try to make their first moves. Once they make that move, though, it really doesn't tend to slow down past that point, at least in the first 3 rounds we've seen so far.
No, it seems W7M have a pretty expansive bag of tricks, and they are more than willing to use it on anybody that wants to be on the receiving end. And it looks like G2 obviously is the one that's lined up across from them at the current moment. And it's going to open up yet again here. Alamau goes down. He had such a successful cafe, but it's been a slow start here so far on Theme Park. G2, it looks like the game is starting to get away from them. Benja starting to take some considerable damage here as well on the arcade balcony. Herds in, he's dusted. Equalizers here for G2 Esports as they'll pull ahead actually in the man count. here and 1:30 remaining. Volts will work his way into the building. They've slowed things down surely.
Certainly have caused some bigger issues here for W7M by cooling off the aggressive tendencies of G2, sticking into their angles much more heavily, not going for these bigger swings as we'd been seeing in the previous rounds here. They're holding it much closer to the chest, even inside of their own extensions here. That's leading to more success for them in the early gunfights so far in round number 4 here. But Julio, with that pickup, has re-equalized the equation yet again, back down to a 3-0 scoreline, or 3-all scoreline. Time to see here now if they can continue to make up the difference, or if G2 has too strong of a hold now. Benja coming close to being clipped off there as he moves forward just to take out a drone as well. But will be able to successfully shift back deeper into the site. Volps potentially next up to bat here as he's reached arcade balcony. Tries to push himself forward. Doki, the nice swing out, catches one, but once more, Julio equalizes us for a second time here with his pick. Doki continuing to snipe out everyone on W7M, and then Virtue finally coming in there to pick up the last one as well. Nicely held by G2 as we finally see them on the board on round 4. Doki's really tunnel visioning.
No, I'm pretty sure that Fabian like fist bumped him like 7 times. He just kept like bumping him like, do it again, do it again, do it again. Like, man, you know what? I really have been enjoying watching Fabian coach this team so far. It's been very energetic. I think it's a perfect role for him, honestly, you know. So pretty cool stuff. G2 finally able to get their first round on the board, and it was definitely fighting fire with fire. There was really no ifs, ands, or buts about the utility usage there. It was all who wants to take a gunfight with who, and who's more successful in said gunfight. That time around, finally G2 is Doki has found himself yet again.
We have W7M, still with a few repicks to be flushed out here. KZ, for instance, going to be going over to the Sense, which should be interesting to see. Obviously, still a pretty rare pick in terms of competitive Siege here. We do not see them being brought out all that often, just because of the fact that they are quite difficult to make work appropriately. The utility can be somewhat difficult to use in the way that you want to, unless you're just trying to draw a straight line. So as a result of that one, it's few and far between that we actually see the Sense get brought in, but it seems like W7M has found some use for it on this round, so they will find their way into the game.
The aggressive angles here from G2 as Doki will be out on the cash balcony. Seen so many players using this for the opening portions of Theme Park. Trying to see if they can get an easy kill here on the cash balcony. Nothing doing this time around. Doki will get the hatch open as well as a drone for his troubles. He'll skimper back off into the actual building. Doesn't want to take too early of a gunfight here with W7M, especially when it's the entire onslaught on this portion of the building.
Approaching the 2-minute mark here now, which means we should start to see some opening action. Some opening bids for map control being laid out by the W7M roster. Herd specifically has the lineup in a Dragon. No way G2 is going to make the same mistake that was made on this site the last time here, so they do have a much bigger overwatch in the actual site this time to prevent a straight walk-in from someone on W7M, which was how they were able to take it the last time this site was played out here. G2, aside from that though, still a bit of an extension, deployed out over toward the arcade side of the map, holding on to the dorms, for instance, as well as the break room next to it. Need to eventually peel that back. Probably will want to do so relatively soon. W7M is not too tripped up by the roam game right now. They are focusing very heavily on the site. Now having access to one of the electrical breaches, they can begin to move forward, but Doki still doing a fantastic job of finding these roaming picks as he gets another one to start this round off here. JV going down first. KZ to keep the numbers even though.
Back and forth we go in between these two. 1 minute and 5 seconds remaining for W7M to burst into this site. Doki, I do think, considering a little damage towards his teammate there just for a split second, but not enough to call home about. Blur trying to prevent this plant from going down on the Osa shield, and she's playing back into this now as well. Virtue, oh my, has he actually made the play here? He has indeed. Pre-fire's coming through. He's got the angle on the Osa, and he's got the stoppage, but there's so much time for W7M to try and work out this puzzle.
W7M once again always fighting towards the bitter end of it, and oftentimes in these sorts of scenarios here where they're working a 2vx. So Julio and Herd's going to try to group things up. Yellow Wall has been taken down first here to potentially allow them in. Not immediately going to use it, though. It's more of a distraction than anything to try and get some of the eyes from G2 hyper-focused on that angle. And it has indeed worked. One player from W7M is eventually going to push in from this one, but the other trying to work the connector angle here. They're going to try to play it together. Those Legion mines, though, tripping them up. No time to peel them out. Blur more than ready for the challenge. Him and Virtue have no problem fending off the last two pushes from W7M. And as such, another round is found for G2.
All the way to 3.
Easily done there for G2 in the dying moments of round 5. As well, looks like they might finally be able to find some semblance of success here and get the equalizing round. That could make this a pretty interesting affair when it comes to the second half. You know, W7M has looked pretty dominant, especially when it came to their defenses on Cafe. Theme Park, some similar circumstances when it comes to the defensive play. I'd say it's even more expansive in the ways that you hold things, just given the size of the map per floor. So W7M could definitely be using that to their advantage in the near future. Round 6, our very last round of this half. Now on the board is G2 will be defending initiation and office. They're going to be bringing the mirrors back into play here. Everything else making quite a bit of sense in what we usually see teams tend to lean on in a position like this.
So, spawn from W7M is going to roll out in about 10 seconds here. No drastic repick showing up for them. Just oh, never mind. It seems we're going to get quite a few of them after all here. The Twitch being swapped in, Nomad being swapped in, Lion being swapped in, and Dokumi being swapped in as well. W7M want to get a lockdown on the G2 here now, but I'm not entirely sure if this is going to work in the way that they think it will here. G2, like I said, has kind of cooled off the aggression quite a bit, save for Doki. He's been given the free reign to do whatever the heck he wants in the early round here. So there's a pretty low chance that the Nomad air jabs and as well as some of these other pieces of utility may actually lock into a target, but we'll have to wait and see how everything unfolds here for W7M. Once they start to peel their way towards the site, we'll get a bit of a clearer picture in terms of how they're going to want to use all of this.
W7M will be starting things off on the Dragon side. Have a couple of players over towards Cafe. G2 already showing teeth, though. Let's see, we'll tag up a couple of players. Doki, although, also taking a little heat for his sake as well. W7M not wanting to hop to just yet, as they can sense that G2 is trying to get this opening pick dealt with very early on right now. So they're going to go into the drone game and see if they can try and find an area they could abuse pretty handedly. It's starting to look like it might be building up towards that cache side. Have some drones in on the arcade area, but I don't think we'll be seeing a swing anytime soon here from the likes of Volps.
Andrew continuing to wait for the first bit of aggression to really start swinging in here from W7M. Yet to see them commit to any hard points closer to the site itself, meaning G2 still has a very stalwart hold. Could potentially change over the next few minutes. Herd's getting tripped up there as he goes in by one of the alibi clones. That's going to reveal him for a few seconds, but quickly corrects upon that one. Has positioning inside of the site now. Just has to keep it and leave room open for the rest of his teammates to also rotate into this one. Julio holding a flank, can't move forward. Doki successfully pierces the veil anyway. Takes down Julio. KZ will be able to trade out for one, but there's still fire back coming in for other members of G2. W7M down a player. Needs to get a double kill here to be able to equalize this situation back under their own control and still have a chance to push out and find a plant for themselves here. They're split up now as well. Volps laying down the hatch. He's not been able to spot Doki, and I think he's made it out there. Nicely played by Doki on this round as well. Pretty much single-handedly delaying this push in its entirety between the kills he got at the beginning and the play he just made there on the inside of control. 30 seconds left here. Let's see how W7M tries to piece this together.
Oh, it's been so difficult for them. Trying to deal with G2. They're constantly hounding them on these angles. The Bulls in the Bronx taking it to them. W7M cannot find a single lifeline at the current moment. Time and time again, the timing's not working out. It's a moment they look away from an angle. G2 shows up. They deal the death blow towards W7M. And Alamau and the rest of the gang will be able to pick up yet another slow fist bumps here for the God Lord Fabian of G2. They're looking to try and reclaim the lead here after that round. 3-3 here after the half on Theme Park. G2 now on the offensive side of things.
So G2 able to even things out, bring themselves back from the brink, it would seem, after W7M got off to a booming start. Great input certainly came in during that tactical timeout. And that's immediately when we saw the turnaround from G2. Started to see them really excel here to bring things back under their own control to keep this game even. Now it's time to see if that is going to carry forward onto the attacking side as well. W7M has been bested quite often here throughout the course of this series, but they have generally always seemed to have a pretty reliable defensive game. And now, on another defensive-sided map, this could be just what they need, that nice little boon to get them over the edge. But they'll have to start off on the right foot here, as they lost their edge, of course, on that attacking side. Only picking up the first 3 rounds for themselves here. G2 taking a solid 3 in direct response to that.
Well, now this is where everything starts to really matter. Everything bubbling to the surface now for both of these teams. W7M and G2 a half away from being able to claim this long and hotly contested best of 3. Both of these teams considered the best in the business when it comes down to it. Some of the biggest and brightest names in all of Rainbow Six esports on their respective rosters. And it's all come down to this one half of Rainbow Six that could be forced to overtime if it continues on this teeter-totter that we've seen so far in between these two.
So, G2 yet again up on the outskirts of Cafe. Ready to move themselves forward. A couple nades going to be chunked in here. Will deal with some of the Kiva barricades that KZ put up a few moments prior, but still will leave the position relatively safe. KZ, though, roaming out and about over here by the arcade window. Really caught out for just a second there. At least one bullet connecting onto him. Forces him back a little bit further into the depths of those staircases there. And in the meanwhile, because of the lack of an Overwatch on Office, well, Benja's been able to walk right up here, take full control of the rest of the second floor. Thankfully, this is all by design of W7M. He has not been able to align himself with any of the actual players from the W7M roster as of yet here, but will potentially come close to it. He tries to go for the swing into the bathroom, where we still have at least one member of this defensive setup trying to play for a hold onto Lab.
So very close are these two teams. Only a few meters separating them from the very opening kill of this round. Could be a big one as well. It's going to be on to Blur. The ace now down. Volp's looking to make this even worse for G2. Some stuns in and some crucial shots missed as Alamau will take him down with the SMG-12. Out of all things, don't get to see that weapon all that much anymore, but he makes good with it inside of this scenario.
Hurts, not expecting the top down angle there, will take quite a bit of damage from it. Thankfully, on the Oryx, has access to the dash and can use that to get himself into another safe position here, but that doesn't mean it's going to remain that way. They still know he's on the inside of barrels. Can be taken down at a moment's notice here, but still causing a bit of a slowdown for G2 overall, as they have yet to really synchronize any good positions they can use to get into the actual throne room here. So will be finally found out as he goes down on the inside of that barrels position. Like we said, that took a good 20 or so seconds to eliminate him, and now G2 still 4 players standing, yes, but 3 out of 4 of them going to be forced to try and make a play through connector here. Nitro going to be chucked in as well to attempt to fend off the breach attempt being made here, but unfortunately it lands just a bit too low. G2 still making their mark though. Alamau starts us off strong, and Toki and Benja follow it through as G2 are able to steal the first round defense when didn't even really look like they were going to be able to make it work, to be honest with you. Had access to very minimal map control, had to push their way through the connector, but still got the job done.
That was a hell of a shot call right there. Get everybody focused on what could potentially be going on around the breach, and then just send it right in through split. Absolutely fantastic, and probably the shot call coming from Virtue right there. That's probably why he's giving him so much praise, is just being able to send it at the proper time, completely catching W7 off guard. You can see not a single person was really paying attention to what was going on with Split, and all of a sudden there was just a preposterous amount of G2 members inside of that hallway.
And so G2 get away with the first one of the second half here. Stealing it after a last-ditched effort ends up paying out quite successfully here. W7M was not expecting such a coordinated push to work itself through the connector doorways there. Had to bow down to the entry prowess that G2 presented on that previous round. G2 also going to be swapping in towards the Amaru here. So we have potentially some interesting action going on. JV really struggling with this hop-up for some reason.
5 seconds to go.
There you go.
Hey, very well done.
It took him like 20 tries to do that.
It happens. That one's kind of finicky. That one is a little finicky. You kind of just sprint and spam the hell out of your space bar. And
hope you make the connection.
Just pray. Pray to the Ubi gods and hope that you get up on that. Otherwise...
he needs like a turbo macro for his space bar or something.
I think it used to be that you could get up on like
I thought you could get up on the railing and then do it that way.
Yeah, but the railing's like a little bit more finicky now as well. Because if I remember,
okay.
I think I might be wrong about this, but I think they changed the hitbox a little bit where you're a little bit more slippery on it when you stand. So it's just easier to do it via that. But past that, some other things are a pretty slippery slope. Losing your heart breach early on. Oh my God! JV92 hip fired. Down by Alamau with the G8. He's going to continue on this reign of terror as he is tearing things up on the arcade side.
JV92 is a little bit upset right now. I'm just going to make that call for him, as that was so nice for G2 to have that lineup. The stars really aligning for Alamau, though, to have that single hip fire shot end up being a headshot.
It looked like someone out of Apex. It just like he just pulled up on him and immediately eviscerated him, all with hip fire. And it's gotten G2 down to this point. Alamau still alive. W7M attempting to thrive, but definitely not in the man count. 2 versus 3 as G2 is in full control here. KZ still looking to try and capitalize on the positioning of G2 at the current moment, as they haven't fully sent it towards site just yet. And he'll be able to at least pick up one, but my God, Doki-san, what a shot. Just milliseconds after his teammates down, instantaneously turns on a dime and removes KZ from play. It's up to Julio. We'd love to see a big round from him here inside of this one. Hasn't had something massively considerable just yet, but it could be the time. Has to get a mag back in this gun. Oh, and it's so very close, but Doki will close it out. He thought he was going to be swinging from the right, but it was to the left, and just those little amount of pixels are the difference between a win and a loss. G2 able to win it out in that situation.
Great attempt there, but you got to give credit to Doki here. He has been consistent as a rock on the inside of this game right now, leading the charge for his team by a pretty heavy score marker as well. 11-4 right now. The next highest teammate is Benja, down at 7 and 6, with the rest of the team following pretty close behind. Some lights out gameplay from him, especially when it came to the roam presence we had been seeing out of him on the defensive side. He's carrying that forward here onto the attacker's end of it now here with that nice closeout to stop the clutch from coming through. W7M getting a little worried about their situation now, so their timeout will come through.
Absolutely. This is the time to use it. I mean, G2 are making massive strides on the offensive side right now, and especially Doki shutting down a lot of what W7M was initially trying to pull off. Past, obviously, Alamau having that initial little interaction, we'll call it, with W7M inside of break. It's all really been the G2 show so far. W7M hasn't really gotten too much going on this defensive side. Constantly fighting from a man down perspective. It just makes things really difficult because you can't do some of the high-flying things that you really want to do because it's so risky.
The case with the W7M now up against the wall. What will they change up potentially? What will they do differently here on these rounds to try and recenter themselves, try and bring it back from the brink? We'll certainly be finding out here. In terms of operator selection, nothing crazy going to be deployed towards it. We do have some mirror action that's going to come out here for Julio, but certainly workable inside of this site specifically here. So we'll present hopefully some better opportunities to spring out and find some earlier picks against G2, which W7M has been struggling a bit with here as of the past 2 rounds. For G2 though, a few repicks coming up for them. We were flirting with the Amaru repick again, but it seems Blur has gone for something much more traditional and is going instead for the Nomad to flank watch for the rest of his team. Benja, of course, getting a little bit sneaky on the Nook, and then Alamau will add the Dokkaebi in for that extra bit of intel.
G2 going to be locking up some portions of the building, at least for window play. Don't want W7M flying out of those anytime soon. G2 trying to get some positioning around the cash balcony as well here, as this looks to be the starting position for them. They'll also get Benji going down around the lockers area, see if he can have some influence around the yellow stairs. Logic bombs in. This looks to be fast moving here from G2. They don't want to slow down up against W7M, and you can't necessarily blame them. Their foot on the gas has been a fantastic thing, but it seems like it might be something that has to be kicked down the road just a little while longer, simply because of that proximity sensor, knowing that Benja was in the area. So see if he can possibly get something done with maybe a frag grenade underneath or a potential late rotation once it's called upon from G2.
Activating presence reduction.
G2 continuing to play this very, very slowly. I think waiting to see if Benja can potentially strike first here, if there's going to be an opportunity. So he clears out the entirety pretty much of the first floor here. He's not going to be able to spot much from it. We're looking at him priming a nade, I think, just a second ago, but ends up unclicking it. Here we go. Now he's got the yellow ping for it. No movement either. This should be a winner. And there we go. Herds down for the count as G2 strikes first yet again.
In sync moment there. Baby bye bye bye. As Herds will go down. W7M finally able to get something going here. They'll equalize, but it might change up quickly. Yep, Alamau, he knew exactly where that was going to be going due to the logic bomb that came through. The phone calls working out so well, as well as the EE1Ds, but somehow Julio's still allowed to stay alive and still allowed to get these 2 kills. Really, really considerable stuff coming out of him given the circumstances of an EE1D and a logic bomb all going off in his back pocket all at that moment. But now for G2, they have to try and pick up these pieces, which was not something that I was really considering saying going into the initial portions of this interaction, but somehow W7M have came out on top. G2 had everything at their disposal to figure out and eliminate all of the W7 members from their positions around the site, but just simply couldn't get it done. Julio with a heck of a play inside of break.
Did you just figure out what their team name means?
W7M?
Yeah, W7 members. Like, I don't.
Maybe.
Winning with 7 members.
Winning 7 members.
That's a really bad team. That's what it actually is.
I'll give you a T.
I don't think that's it though.
I was gonna say I'll give you a T for nice try. I don't really think it's that. But
that's like 2 a.m. acronym. Pick it up right there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes indeed. But I think they might need a lot more than 7 men to get this accomplished right now. Although they were able to get that 1 round, they now have to go back to some successful sites for G2, and that might not bode that well for them. There's only one way to figure that out. Well, it's play the damn game, isn't it? So we'll see what happens after this prep phase. W7M is going to throw it sky high for their setup. KZ will be holding down that top floor with a couple of different barriers around, as well as some of these hatches getting sealed up, so that G2 do clear things out. They won't have such ease of access towards the actual site.
All right, well, we do have a dead member of W7M. 10 seconds into the round
I just looked down at my notes, man. Come on. Come on.
Slaying it out here as he is more than prepared for the spawn peek from Herds there on the Oryx. Slaps him down to the ground, and immediately G2 has the front-running lead. Doki, like I said, consistent as ever inside of this map specifically. Knocking out Keys as well, or KZ, excuse me. Bringing it down to only 3 here for W7M.
Literal pixel of KZ's head exposed off that barrier.
It was the same for Herds, too. Herds, like, I don't even think he saw the player that took him down.
That's just disgusting, man. Touch grass or something. I mean, come on. My God.
There's not a whole lot of that here, you know.
Yeah. Neither in Europe. It's probably pretty cold and crappy over there as well.
You want to touch the white snow or the brown snow?
Yeah. City snow is not that great. And, well, neither is the play from W7M right now. They're looking a little like that sloppy snow. They're getting taken down from every single angle. Nothing that they can do is finding any success for them, at least inside of this one. Volps will finally fight back. G2, though, they've gotten away with so very much. This is looking like map in match point.
Volps tried his best to stay in the situation, but is struggling, of course, here, considering the 1v4 that has been set against him. Not really much that he can realistically work towards at this point here, so this is going to be a 6th and penultimate round for the G2 roster. Volps getting away with at least 1 more here, but just really baiting for kills at this point. Not really trying to lead himself into a clutchable position here. If he gets another kill, he can probably try to swing towards it, which he's coming up on the precipice of that now. But yeah, Virtue ready for the challenge. Finally, G2 give us that expected result of the round and push themselves up to 6.
Good openings, guys. Good openings.
Fantastic stuff from G2. And yes, indeed, as you heard from the bench themselves, great openings, G2. Great openings, because that's exactly what it was. A nice stoppage for the opening blood, and then also Doki with a hell of a peek onto KZ inside of Cash. Again, you got to give him props. A pixel of that woman's head is showing, and he just eliminated it all while on the move on Repel. That's just such a difficult shot to hit, but still capable, all in that moment. G2 now on map and match point, looking to take it out of the grasp of W7M, who looked so potent on Cafe.
G2 seemingly on a run that can't be stopped right now, but for W7M, they don't have a choice here. They've been fighting for so long inside of this series here now, bringing it back from the brink over on our first map, of course, and able to eventually take control there, but could not maintain that presence on map number 2, where G2 ultimately closed things down. Are they about to falter outright and give the third map over to their opponents as well? It's looking more and more likely with the way things are evolving over these past few rounds for W7M. Very much the same flair here for the throne room defense as they come back into it. So we are going to see the Azami for KZ to reinforce the innards of the site, the bandit batteries to try and prevent the wall openings from happening. JV92 will be somewhat contributing to effect on that one as well, and then Herds doing most of the work on roam game, I assume.
A lot slower start here for G2, but considering the last round, that is probably a good thing for both of these teams. It means we got a lot more nuance going on, a lot more potential for W7M to elongate this game. G2 going to stick to their drone game here as they're looking to work their way into Gong. Found themselves some positioning inside of maintenance as well. No one really home for W7M in this area at the current moment, trying to keep things moving around the map and mostly around the stairwells here, as we saw KZ at the top of Dragon. This is going to be a pivotal location, but it looks like he might quickly be dispatched. A frag grenade is going to deal quite a bit of damage, but now they know exactly where he is on top of all of that. Going to continue to be hotly contested rolling through this round.
KZ continuing to wait, see if a member of G2 is going to swing out from electrical there. We can challenge him back down, get that bigger advantage going into the favor of W7M, but have not been able to find that just as of yet here. G2 at the same time, though, are struggling in a similar way to find their footing, to swing this to the next step, to get themselves into the depths of throne room here. Still trying to look for that top-down nade kill, and they just can't seem to find it. W7M are far too mobile on the roam because they know that that's the current objective here, so they're not being baited into it.
Halfway through, G2 have not been able to find the opening kill. Some damage onto Herds. Doki trying to act quickly, usually so solid at this, but now a beautiful lineup here as Herds will be able to take down Blur. Some nice kills coming in, a drop shot, and Herds. So much damage dealt to him, but they can't get him down. Alamau will be the one to go. Benja finally fighting fire with fire, but how much does it really mean, all things considered? 2 versus 4, Herds on very low HP, and most of W7M now back onto site as this last minute has dawned us.
Herds and the rest of the extended game definitely getting the gold star for this round here, just wasting all the time and all the utility from G2, eventually forcing them to just be baited into an outright gunfight, where for the most part, Herds wins it all here in the mid-round. Beautifully played out. Not really expecting much of a hope for G2 to swing this one back under their own control, but let's wait and see here as Volps takes out the second to last member now. Virtue is all that remains. Heat 2 quickly dealt with by JV92 at the connector exit, giving W7M one more round here and one more chance to send themselves into overtime.
Yeah, once again, we have a chance for overtime. W7M can push us there, and Theme Park could get pretty weird, as it'll be a back and forth inside of OOT on a round-to-round basis for both of these teams, and so constantly be switching sides. So this will be the last time that G2 can close this one out inside of regulation. It all comes down to this, and a bunk daycare defense for W7M. They're going to be bringing the Mira along for the ride. G2 had some at least considerable things going that last round. Obviously, they'd love it to go a lot more like the prior round with the 2 easy opening picks for them, and pretty smooth sailing past that moment, but W7M are not going to go down without a fight. G2, this is your time to put them in the grave.
So for G2, just one more round is still all that is needed for them. However, as you said, with W7M coming back alive, it seems, on the previous round, that singular round may be a bit more evasive than it first appeared. Not able to see G2 hit the ground running with the entries that they had done in previous rounds. That's, again, what I was talking about towards the tail end of the last play, when you consider that W7M's roam game caused a massive amount of the delay that eventually led to them winning. They previously were unable to achieve that status and just ended up giving up that control far too early in the round. If not, those players had been taken down outright. So as a result of that big improvement on that part of the game, this led to much greater struggles for G2 and potentially could trigger overtime if we see something similar happen on this final round.
Well, let's get into it. It's been a heck of a showing from Doki. It's been him as well as Herds and KZ going back and forth in a lot of these rounds. KZ really being the thorn in the side of G2, and he's looking to be that yet again. Also Benja as well, 11-9, the newest pickup for G2, and he's been lights out so far for them here at this tournament. A fantastic pickup off the heroic roster that's really been working out for them.
So Doki with the hop in here, just on the drone though, so taking any huge risks as of yet. Wants to go for the check on control before the rest of his teammates potentially are called to swing in through there. And I think he's actually the only one in the area too, so just going to be a lonesome play for himself here. JV92, a little bit of a reconstruction project for some of the utility, as he feels it's going to be much more useful over on this portion of the map, and I would generally tend to agree, especially now that we're a minute deep. It's not really going to be a hard point over there by the bathrooms that you want to deny drone intel from. It's the deeper parts of the map that are now more important, so we'll have to move that there behind the mirror window in hopes of potentially even saving it should there be a hard breach or something similar deployed towards it.
Minute and a half remaining. E1D out, but nobody dead just yet. Logic bomb as well. But all of this just to try and get some info on what the W7 members are. That might have been an ADS there. Nope, mute jammer instead. So that nade would have definitely have landed, but they got the Wamai discs in the space as well. So that will allow him to escape instead. Still be blinded, but definitely alive. Some stuns in here from Blur to try and assist that situation a little bit more, but nobody really there to try and capitalize on something like that. Instead, it'll be Doki onto KZ. What do we tell you? Back and forth these two go, and Doki might have finally gotten it done. The death blow to KZ might transcend the entire team unless Herds has something to say about it. He'll take down Alamau. That's going to be the Dokkaebi off the board here, and back and forth we go. W7M looking to force this overtime. Now G2, they need to recoup. They need these kills. Virtue will get one. Benjamin knows that somebody's close in the area, but he doesn't look tight enough. Volt sees the barrel, and he's able to take him down. It's up to Virtue. This 417, it's been so dastardly throughout the tournament, but it won't be good enough. W7M provide overtime for us here on Theme Park. We have a guaranteed 2 rounds ahead of us.
Second overtime is ignited in this series here. We go the absolute full distance to decide this one here. So let's get into it. 3 more rounds up on the tee. W7M gets a defensive start. G2 starts on the attacking side. First team to 8 will win out not only this map, but the series as well. So let's get into it here as we're back in Armory and Throne Room for W7M's first defense inside of OT. Important to note that as well, that all previously locked sites are now going to be unlocked for play for the defenders.
Well, looking into overtime now in between these two, G2 has been decently solid on offense, but all things considered, it's really been some of those knee-jerk plays where they've kind of had that hive mind mentality that's been getting things over on W7M. W7M, since those moments, though, has been able to compartmentalize G2 and take down a lot of the members that have been giving them just a lot of grief. So we'll see if they can continue to do that with this defensive round. This round right here means so very much to what is going to happen for the remainder of this OT, because they were both just on this side. It's just an extension of what was just happening. So both of these teams, knowing exactly what has happened recently, feeling themselves out. There's going to be a big round, a lot of guesswork going in from both of these squads to try and consider what the game plan will be for the other.
KZ first up to bat here in terms of trying to make impact against that roam game from G2, but may not be able to find any direct contestant to it here, as G2 is trying to go directly for gong control, bypassing the dragon take, at least for these first few seconds. They want to focus on the downstairs play first and set themselves up for a bit more success over here. Away from that, we're going to see them try to swing in, but Julio is waiting for this push to come forward. Alamau with the intel is at least able to trade it, but this is the problem. He was the only one in the site. Everyone else has to suddenly rotate back in. They're not confident in their ability to retake this through connector with the 2 players they have there. Alamau's already on top of that. Now we can see it. Benja, or whoever is the current case carrier, Doki in this case, moves forward. We'll get the plant down onto the ground behind Throne, as there's nothing W7M can do about that one. Blur has the overwatch from Gong now as well, so they can't rotate through yellow. This is perfect from G2 here. I don't know how W7M is going to stop this.
Well, they've gotten the plant down, but it looks like that might at least be a start. Alamau will be able to get one more, making this a 2 versus 2. Volp's pretty low on HP, but the same could be said about Alamau. Definitely going to consider that coming into these fights. KZ will go down. Volp's the last one that remains. Alamau will clean that one up as well. The Brazilian dealing it to his own brethren from across the pond. The European squad getting it done.
The talk is coming in now as well from Alamau as he gets a little bit of that yelling back. We saw W7M giving it out earlier on in the series. Now he's getting his revenge here as G2 that much closer to victory. Just one more round and they will have another barn burner of a series in their pocket. Keep in mind as well, they just went to a full 3-mapper yesterday versus Koi. Beat them 2-1 as well. So this is a Herculean effort already in the group stage for G2 just across these 2 days, having played both their series to a full 3 maps so far.
I can already hear all the songs being made by the Brits about Alamau for all of his fantastic play. Not only inside of that round, but for the rest of the day, he's had some amazing highlight moments. That round right there, all Alamau, completely. Logic bombs, everything else in between. Everybody gets bodied on the entry, and then just a couple of moments later, he slips through the cracks, gets that kill, and then plays that entire situation out perfectly. Maintains control of split to allow his teammates to get in. Maintains control over the planting space. Assists with the Dragon Door once they switch around. Like, there's just so many positive things there for Alamau inside of that round, and that might be it. You know, he might have gotten all the heavy lifting done here for G2 to take this series.
Let's find out if it is indeed going to be enough now, as the potential final round of the series begins with G2 still leading the charge here. W7M, of course, now on the attacking side. Some interesting choices on their lineup, specifically to bring, once again, the 0 in for JV92. They tried this once on map number 1 here, but the player got immediately picked. They never really got to see the style they were trying to use this operator with. Get a better picture of it this time around here. Nades going in quite quickly as well here. Thankfully, that rotation path back onto the inside of the kids' room does save the defensive player's life under these circumstances. That explosion probably otherwise dealing some pretty serious damage. Oh, the timing for Virtue, though, just does not pan out. Scopes in, unfortunately, to his death as Herds is waiting for it and shuts him down. First kill of this round goes to W7M.
Scary look here for G2, but it's not something that they haven't dealt with before. Blur might be 2-10. Doesn't mean that he can't win the round for him. Still has a gun, it's still got bullets, and he's still one of the most skilled players in his age group. That's exactly why he's sitting on this G2 roster right now. Nothing but confidence for this squad. Same can be said for W7M. Gotten that opening kill onto Virtue, and now they're taking their sweet time. They do not want to mess this up. They've gotten the advantage up against the squad, but it can be easily taken away as well, especially as Alamau has been feeling himself, same as Doki. Very quick to take those fights, very quick and decisive fights as well. You really don't get a lot of say in those moments, do you, John?
No, you do not. Halfway through the round now. JV92, a dangerous cross here on the rappel, as you do still have Doki waiting just behind that window, and you know he wants to potentially try and play this out if any realistic chance to win it presents itself. He's already committed himself to far less dangerous fights. So we'll have to wait and see if he decides to ever go for this one, or if he's just going to maintain a general amount of respect between himself and JV92 on the outside of his window. He goes in from her. It's a little off the mark, though. No one really in that area from G2, and it's suddenly just gone dead quiet. Just as I say that, though. Blur snipes out Volps, eliminates the first member of the W7M roster. Then goes very quiet after that, but a nice snipe from Herds eliminates Salamal as he tries to play behind the bomb chassis. Benja ready for the challenge in through arcade window and now takes up the very mantle of that position. Herds, though, single-handedly bringing his team back from the brink as he knocks out Doki and one more. Everything now on Blur's hands here as it's come down to the 1v3.
The case is going to be on Julio. So many guns still have to try and take advantage of these angles.
It's an ace!
An ace for Hertz. Oh my, what a round for him, as he is constantly at the forefront of battle for W7M inside of this situation. G2 had somehow worked it out to where they still had the ability to win that round. They had a certain man advantage. They had the ability to hold down the site. But when you look over at a player like Hertz, you let things like that happen. more than likely not going to come to fruition. Constantly making the aggressive proper play and taking it to G2 inside of their own site. Now we're at the maximum round capacity, John. We've made it to the promised land. No matter what happens, this game is over after this. Somebody has to go home with this best of 3.
That's the second ace of the series from W7M as well. If I recall correctly, Volps or KZ managed to pick one up during map 1 also. So some massive individual performances coming out over the course of this series so far between the W7M members, but is the team cohesion enough? That's now the final question, of course, as we move into that last round. As you said, full 15 has been achieved for the second time now, and it is time to see who will win the test of it. G2 closed it out last time. But now we have to wait and see if W7M, after that amazing ace that came in there on the last round from Herds, is potentially going to slingshot themselves into the pole position for this series.
All right, let's get into it, shall we? Very last round here. Operator lineup looking very solid for G2. They have so much annoying utility, especially for the info game. You got the Lion, you got the Dokkaebi. W7M not going to be allowed to move around in a very aggressive way as long as those are up and abound. But they do have some options themselves. You know, they do have the Warden to get around the smokes, the Frost Mats to prevent some more aggressive play if somebody doesn't look where their feet are going, as well as KZ to try and thwart some of these drones that can work their way towards site a little bit later on here. You can already see that getting some work done, as well as G2's drone count already down to 4 active and 2 in the pocket, so something that they'll have to consider later on now.
KZ getting that info drip, of course, has the intel where all the drones are being played out from. EE1D charge is in from G2. Expect some follow-up action onto that one, but seems like things are going to remain pretty calm when everything is said and done. Just an nade chuck in from Blur to hopefully catch the players while they were immobilized, but nothing to be unleashed upon that, unfortunately. Away from that situation, though. Once again, you can see how tense the scenario is just by the inconsistency of both of these teams actually want to go for some sort of play here. So they continue to maintain a very quiet presence throughout this map here. Benja, of course, being one of the few exceptions to this one for members of G2 specifically, as he tries to lurk through on the Nook. The rest of the team just primed for a play. Doki, his life flashing before his eyes there as the Nitro is sent directly into his face. Thankfully, able to dodge it though, get out of the situation, and still keep himself at full HP in the process. Benja dodging death there also as another Nitro comes dangerously close to him. Thankfully, plenty of time to react to it though and get out of the way.
Down into the last minute. This is usually when things get very, very wrong. And yes, indeed, it'll happen. G2, they try to spring into the map in these dying moments, and we usually call it the hell minute when it comes into a situation like this, don't we? 5 versus 5, quickly 5 versus 3. After G2 walk into a frost mat and lose their best entry, everybody else is going to have to try and get something going here. It all starts with Virtue as he's working his way in from Cafe. Herds will dispatch him. Goes swinging. He'll find himself a Blur. Benja's gotten picked back up by Alamau. They're coming up the arcade stairwell. Back and forth they go, but Benja's going to quickly get gunned down. Alamau can't get it done either, and W7M get it done up against G2 here in this best of 3. Difmark taking some time, but their play, their consideration, the strategy going into this working so very well for them.
G2 is able to avoid heartbreak in their opening match yesterday for an interregional play against Koi, but here going up against one of the rising teams in Latin America, W7M is able to best them with one final round, changing up their fate here. They take the series 2-1 and the lion's share of group stage points that would go along with it. Big congratulations to W7M. Had to follow through on this one. Had a great start to the series, but fell off a little bit towards the second map. Able to bring things back though and finally take that control in overtime here. They're looking strong to move forward further into this group.
Yeah, fantastic day from them, and I think honestly you can say the same about G2. Really, it was just
It's a great series.
Yeah, it was a great series. Just really that last map, Blur not really getting things done the way that he would want to. 3-12, I do believe, was his final stat line there, and that's not what you want when you go max OT. So a little unfortunate circumstance there for G2, but I mean the team is still looking fantastic, all things considered. They changed up quite a bit about this roster. You know, with